So next we have on the row is telotaxis. Telotaxis is the directional taxic movement which does not depend upon the simultaneous comparison of the stimulation from two receptors. So against when we see about tropotaxis, we can see that telotaxis doesn't have any simultaneous comparison of the stimulation from two receptors. Okay. If there are two sources of similar stimuli, the animal will select any one of them and move towards or away from it. And there is never in a median direction. Okay, so in this case, what happens is the influence of one stimulus will be inhibited. Um, this telotaxis here, it can be considered as an orienting mechanism which keeps a certain stimulus at a fixed place on a receptor, mostly the eye. And when we see there is no simultaneous comparison of the stimuli involved, and it can be called as a goal-oriented orientation. Goal-oriented orientation. Now, one example is like hermit crabs. They have well-developed eyes. You may have found, learned it in your previous semester. And when it is presented with two light sources, one dim and the other bright, it always moves towards the brighter one. Similarly, male grayling butterflies, often being blinded in one eye, would still fly towards the passing females, showing the goal-directed orientation. So here it is actually the goal which is more important. It has nothing to do with the intensity of the stimuli. Okay, so actually there is no comparison happening, simultaneous comparison happening with the help of the receptors. Another example we have is about the honeybee. So bees, they move from hive to food, the food source actually flowers, and they balance the stimuli from the sun as well as the flower. But they actually try to rest on the flower with high intensity, whose intensity is higher. Okay, so this kind of a movement is also the telotaxis. It is directional movement, but without any involvement of the comparison of stimulus from receptors. Okay, so that is a telotaxis. Another type of taxic movement is menotaxis. It is considered to be a light compass response, and here the orientation towards the source of the stimulus occurs at a definite angle to the direction of the stimulus. And here you can see um, the moth moves in the the moths are actually nocturnal, and you can see it moves with keeping up an angle with respect to the light source, that is the moon. Okay, similarly the moths and the other flies, usually it gets attracted to light and it tries to keep a particular angle. Okay, so this maintaining a constant direction by keeping themselves at a constant angle with respect to the stimulus. So that is what is in the menotaxis. Okay, so here we can see that uh, it serves as a behavioral mechanism for maintaining a constant direction of orientation. And the sun compass navigation of many insects, fishes, and birds are few examples. And these animals, they use sun as a guidance in homing, that is like coming back to their home. Okay, and it is also found in ants, bees, some aquatic crustaceans, etc. So here we can see that there is an orienting mechanism which helps the animal to maintain a constant direction by placing themselves at constant angle to the direction of the stimulus. Okay, so in this type of orientation, generally the principle of negative feedback is involved, where the output of regulating cycle acts as the input. And we have already seen the example of the moths. Okay, another example is with respect to the orienting behavior of certain other insects. For example, the ants, which use sun as a reference for homing. And if these insects are confined to a dark box for a few hours while in the middle of their homeward journey, that after collecting the food, okay, so after their release, we can see that they would maintain the same angle to the sun as the one when they were kept in the box. Okay, that is before keeping it in the box, whatever angle they had maintained, the same angle they maintain after lifting of the darkness. Okay, so they would not compensate for the movement of sun during these hours, which changed its angle, and this would then lead them to a different path uh, than the one they would have taken before. So we can see that an experiment is conducted on ants, and just imagine a set of ants. They are in their homeward journey, and they are keeping a particular angle, say for example a 45-degree with the sun. Okay, so they are moving, and what happens is we are just placing a cardboard box to introduce darkness onto some of the experimental ants. Okay, so few of the ants are being placed in the dark cardboard, inside the dark cardboard. Okay, and it has been placed for some time. By the time, what happens is the sun may have moved, and the angle may have got shifted. Okay, so the rest of the ants may have reached the what you call the nest, their home, keeping the what you call that particular angle. But what happens is, once we remove the cardboard box, the experimental ants may be maintaining the same angle. Okay, but the uh, with the lapse of the time, the sunlight, the direction may have moved, but still they may keep the same what you call angle with respect to the sunlight. So this kind of a behavior is actually known as the menotaxis. So orienting the body with respect to the orienting the body with a particular angle with respect to the source of the stimulus. Okay, so mainly it is concerned with light. So that is why it is known as a light compass reaction. Okay, an ant taken far away from its hill will return along a straight line. That is when the ant is displaced in open and is allowed to see the sun. But if it is put in a box and then released, it will make a slight directional error. And the error in the angle of direction corresponding to the change in the position of the sun during the time that the insect was in the box. So that's another set of experiment we can see. Okay, ants, bees, and locusts may be fooled with a mirror that reflects the sun's rays, and then the insect will go in a different direction, like direction completely opposite to that which they would normally take. Okay, so here it is actually the the directional movement with respect to the source of the stimulus. Okay, so we have the um, menotaxis. The next one we have is the clinotaxis. Here we can see that there is when a successive comparison of stimulus intensity are taken as reference for orientation, it is known as clinotaxis. So it is almost similar to what we have found in the case of tropotaxis. There is a comparison of intensities at two different levels. So this can be seen in animals when they are confronted with environments which have, for example, gradients of chemical stimulation. Okay, one example here is the moths with respect to the pheromone intensity. So, when we speak about the clinotaxis, it is the orientation in which successive comparison of the intensity of the stimulus is taken as a reference. So, it involves the successive comparison of the intensity of the stimulus in the nearby parts of the body. So, here lateral swinging or wavy movement of the head or the whole body would detecting the direction of the stimulus is an example for the clinotactic movement. In clinotaxis, the receptor organ is unable to detect the source and direction of the stimulus. So the animal tries to compare the intensity of the stimulus on either side of the body with the like it tries to compare the intensity of the stimulus from either sides of the body. Okay. Now, repeated comparison of the intensity of the stimulus would help the animal to turn until both the sides have equal stimulation. So, it is believed to be essential for providing a continuous supply of information since the animal lacks long-term memory. So, clinotaxis is exhibited by, as we have already seen, it could be from in earthworms, like maggots of flies. Okay, so all this actually shows the clinotactic movement. Okay, so you can see over here the female produces pheromones. These are the chemicals, and the chemical intensity, the pheromonal intensity concentration will be more on this part. Okay, and as the distance increases, obviously the concentration keeps on decreasing. The male perceives this particular chemical stimulus And what happens is the moth to have two antennae, and a pair of antennae, and these two antennae will pick up the stimulus. While what the nervous system does is actually it compares the intensity picked up by the antennae, both the antennae, and it compares, and the individual tries to keep itself in towards the strong intensity area. Okay, and you can see it keeps on changing the direction in such a in response to the intensity of the stimulus. Okay, so this is what happens with the clinotaxis. Another type of tactic movement is a rheotaxis. It is a it occurs in organisms with receptor cells but not paired receptor organs. And when intensity of stimuli is balanced equally from all the sides, the organism move in a straight line. Usually, rheotaxis usually happens with respect to the fishes in water. Okay, so it is rheotaxis. We have already seen the different types of taxis with respect to the different stimulus, isn't it? So rheotaxis is something which happens with the help of receptor cells which are not paired. Okay, so in the case of fishes, they have the lateral sense organs, isn't it? So it is on both the sides, they are not paired. So these lateral sense organs, it picks up the there are many other what do you call organisms which do have different kinds of receptors that are usually not the paired ones. Okay. Then we have the pneumotaxis. It is actually memory-based orientation in which the animal follows the same path all the time for its orientation. It is actually introduced or suggested in 1919 by a scientist named Kuhn. But many scientists actually they don't consider it as a type of taxis. Okay, but still, mnemotaxis is a form of orientation based on memory. And here you can see that one example is on water shrew. It exhibits this memory resident orientation when it follows the same path every time. So if its memory map is disturbed by changing a part of its path, it will stop and start exploring the surroundings. And it will then retrace its steps till it locates a known landmark, and then will resume the earlier course and would try to overcome the difficulty posed by the changed path. So it can also be seen in children reciting poetry who repeat the earlier lines if they forget any one line in the middle of their recitation. So that was about the mnemotaxis. Okay. So here these were the different types of tactic movements. So we described what is taxis. We described the different types of tactic movement with respect to the what you call the nature of stimulus, and then we saw the different types of tactic movement with respect to the receptor organs that perceive the stimulus, and we saw clinotaxis, tropotaxis, telotaxis, menotaxis, rheotaxis, and mnemotaxis with a few examples. Right. Now we are passing on to the next part, that is the differentiating features of taxis and kinases. So in taxis, what happens is there is an orientation of a cell or organism or part of the body in response to an external stimulus. But kinesis, it is non-directional. So there is no directed movement towards or away from the stimulus. Obviously, stimulus is influencing the movement, but this direction of the movement doesn't have any role in controlling the movement. Okay. Now, in taxis, there is directional movement which occurs towards or away from the stimuli, while in kinesis, it is non-directional, it is a random movement, and the intensity of the stimulus is more important in kinesis. Okay, so this is all about the orientation. Sorry, what do you call the taxis and kinesis, and the two types of orientation. Okay.